Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for dialing in to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking about the science behind great ad content. So we're going to have a look at what content you actually put into Seek, break it down into some really functional steps, and then go through what great looks like. Because I think the key thing that I want you guys to walk away with is really understanding what you need to do to be able to influence the candidate user experience. Okay, so someone's looking at your ad and they think, yep, that sounds like me. This is a company or a brand that I want to align with. It makes sense. And then the second stage we want to do is really make sure that Seek has the opportunity to remarket your ad to the most relevant talent pools as possible. Because ultimately, whatever content you put into Seek, we actually grab and then we parse and then we look for candidates that match and we resurface your ad in lots of different ways. So we want to make sure that you're really getting the full equity out of your ad and really optimizing everything you do on a day-to-day basis. Now, for those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Narelle Stefanac. I'm the National Client Training Manager at Seek. I've been around for a while. This is my 11th year at Seek, so really happy for you guys to throw me any questions that you may have and just throw them throughout the session today. In fact, we'll have this question box available to you. So type your questions in as you go and I'll answer as many as I possibly can. If we are getting pressed for time, because this is a fairly quick 30-minute session, what I'll do is I'll park your questions to the end and then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A and hang on the line at the end as well. Now we've got a new little section called handouts. I'm not sure if you can see it on your screen or not, but it allowed me to upload this session's presentation today. So if you can access that, by all means, you can download it and print out any of the screens that you find really relevant that you want to repurpose and reuse in your businesses. Otherwise, we'll also be sending out a copy of this presentation along with the recording later this afternoon. So we'll make sure we get that in your hands so you can utilize it. So why don't we jump into things, because we've got a fair amount to cover in a very short amount of time. So the first thing we're going to talk about is advertising content, and I really want you guys to get your head around what actually happens with your content today, because a fair bit has changed in the last 5 years. I guess the main thing that we're really trying to do is what I framed up at the beginning. We're really trying to make sure that the experience for candidates across any device is a pleasurable one, so that they feel like they want to not only search for your ads, but when they find them, they don't want to run away. They actually want to stay there. They want to read your ad. They believe that you have all the information that they require to be able to make an informed decision. And they want to be able to read it in a very comfortable setting. So how well is it structured? Is it easy for me to pass my eye through? All of these things to create engagement with the candidate is still going to be important. The other thing to think about now is there's a hell of a lot that we can do with data. So if we have content in your body of your ads, we can grab all of that content and then try and derive really good matching candidates as a result. But we can only do that if you have really good content in there. If your content's a bit mediocre, then it makes it really difficult for us to determine which candidates are relevant and which ones aren't. And I'll show you how that sort of comes to life with the whole ad sort of life cycle. So what happens when you post your ad to Seek is that it not only goes up on our Seek website, but it goes across all devices. So it doesn't matter if you have an iPad, an iPhone, an Android device, we have apps for all of those. And so we make sure that the rendering experience is pretty good and the search experience is pretty good. Now, candidates in real time can be notified. So we have this notification capability where they can conduct a search, set all their parameters, and then say, show me jobs as they get posted like these. So every time I come in and out of my app or onto my desktop computer, you notify me of how many new jobs have been posted since I was last here. So we want to make sure that when you write your ad content, it's right the first time. If you think you can come back later and edit it, you sort of can't, because candidates have already seen it and they've either accepted it or rejected it at that point in time. So make sure that you get your copy right the first time, especially those little short summaries. They're really key in getting the click through to the body of your ad. Now, the other thing that happens within 7 seconds of you posting your ad is that we parse all of the information out of your ad and then we run it through our 3.5 million searchable profiles. Okay, so we have about 8 million relationships with candidates. Not all of them have to have a profile, but 3.5 million of them do, and they say they want to be approached by companies or recruiters for opportunities. And what we do is we pull back a list of potentially matching candidates based on the content of your ad, and this list just sits in our talent search platform waiting for you to access it. And it's actually, it doesn't cost anymore. It's actually just an extension of your job ad. It just sits there and waits. It's probably about 20% of companies are actually using it at the moment. So if you're not familiar with it or if you need to know more, please just reach out to us. It doesn't cost anything, like I said, so you may as well take advantage of it because that's how you reach your really relevant talent pools. Now, we will be running a webinar at the end of this month on talent search methods, specifically around this particular search capability. We won't be covering it today, but you'll hear me sort of talk to it a little bit in and out. All right, so the next thing that happens on the second day, so day 2, candidates receive their job mail alert. And we send out about 40 million job mail alerts every month. Out of that, we do see a lot of traction back into the site and people looking at jobs and applying for roles as well. But it's very candidate driven. Okay, if I'm working at McDonald's and I want to be the next CEO of Google, I can put those parameters in if I wish. But ultimately, the candidate gets to decide. Obviously, there's a lot more relevance coming through, but it is very candidate driven. So what we wanted to create was very similar to a job mail, but take this talent search idea and be able to remarket your job ads out to more relevant candidate pools. So what we've done is we've built this thing called a weekly roundup. And what it is, it looks very similar to a job mail. You can see it on your screen there at the bottom. And what we do is we look at both active and passive candidates. And we look at candidates who are actively applying for roles, and we see which ones they don't apply to, but they should have. Okay, so if you've listed in a role for an electrician, and there's 10 other companies that have listed roles for electricians, but the candidate only applies to 3 of them, then we look at all of those roles and we say, okay, what's same, what's different, how are they relevant? Did the candidate miss out on anything? They might have missed it because it was posted on a day when they weren't looking. Maybe they didn't like the way your short description was written. Maybe you didn't use your logo or your standout format, so they just skipped past you. Maybe they just didn't like your brand and they chose to deselect you. There's a whole range of reasons why candidates might miss your opportunity. Maybe you put in a different classification to where the candidate was looking. So for any of these reasons, we want to be able to grab your ad and then resurface it to the candidate and say, hey, we think you might be interested in this ad because we can see there's a real level of relevance between what you're applying to and what ads exist on Seek that match very, very closely. So we grab that ad and we say, hey, here's some jobs you may be interested in. So that's pretty easy for the active candidates. For the passive candidates, a little bit more difficult. So with passive candidates, we look at the entire talent pool within our talent search platform, and some of them are active, some aren't. Okay, so say you've got, say, another pool of electricians, you might have 1,000 electricians in there. Say 10% of them are active, so there's 100 of them that are applying to roles. The other 900 aren't. So we grab those 100 that are applying to roles and we look at what they're applying to, and then we grab those ads and we surface them up to the inactive candidates, so the passive ones, and say, hey, here's some ads that we think you may be interested in because people like you are applying to these roles. So that's how we get your ad and we remarket it, but it depends on the quality of your ad. If you have really crappy content in there, we actually throw your ad away and leave it up to the candidate to find it and source it. But if you have really rich, specific content, we're able to understand what it is that you're looking for, and we can actually position your ad out in front of the really relevant candidates for you. So we're going to talk about how you get to that specific content. And when we talk about content, it's everything. Okay, it's all of your summary and it's all of your job ad. So we want to make sure that we dial up all of the content that we have in both of these sections so that it's really informative, it's very factual, but it's very concise as well so that candidates actually want to read it. Okay, nothing worse than having an overwhelming ad where you've got all the information the candidate would ever need, but no one wants to read it. Okay, so we have to find that really delicate balance between what candidates want and what you need to put in to get the best possible result. So to help you, we have some scorecards. Okay, so these scorecards I would absolutely use. This is one thing I would print out of the deck if nothing else. And what I would do is I'd spend a minute on both checklists here. Okay, so the first one, what we're looking at is the search results summary. So that really little area, so you've got like 150 characters to really position in the job opportunity. You've got some bullet points if you use the standout format or the premium format. You also have your job title, your salary, your location, all of those sorts of things. Give yourself 1 point for everything on the list and 0 for anything you've missed. If you think you're sort of halfway there, give yourself half a point. Okay, and then you do the same thing with your job ad details as well. Okay, have you covered every core critical element of both the summary and the job ad to make sure that you're meeting both the candidate expectations, but also big data expectations of how your ad is going to get remarketed out to really relevant talent pools. All right, so how do you actually bring it together? Scorecards are great, but I'm going to give you some examples and we're going to move through these pretty quickly. Happy for you guys to print them out, download whichever ones are relevant to you post today's event as well, but I'm going to move at pace. So when we talk about the search results summary, we absolutely recommend that you use either a standout or premium format. That means you get these 3 extra bullet points and your logo on here. And there's a few reasons. One, your ad is twice the size. Okay, when you're looking at your summaries, when you're competing with everyone else on the page, you have double the content. Okay, because you get an extra 240 characters just with these bullet points alone. So that's number one reason you're going to outplay your competitors. Number two is when you think about the mobile experience, this is the only way you can actually brand yourself in a mobile experience is by putting your logo on your summary. Unless you include video in the body of your job ad, that could work as well, but not at the first touch point, okay? All other templating is stripped off your ad because the mobile screen is just way too small. And there's so many different variations of mobile screens. We've just not been able to create an environment where it can actually grab your ad template and then convert it for you. So ultimately, all that goes through in a mobile experience is just your text and your formatting within your text. There's no pretty template anymore. So if you want your logo, whack it on here. The most important things to remember, though, is candidates will choose ads that sound like them. Okay, so does the job title make sense to me? Or have you put in a whole heap of jargon, a whole heap of other content that's going to be really distracting? Okay, if it's an electrician, tell me I'm an electrician. If I'm a boilermaker, I'm a boilermaker. You know, they're really simple terms. Even sales roles, so there's a range of different sales roles, so sales rep, sales executive, relationship manager, account manager, these are all common terms as well. But if you start getting into fancy titles, it makes it really difficult for candidates to understand what it is that you're actually looking for. You know, at Seek, we actually have a role called a habitat manager, and it's a great role. But what that role does, if we were to compare it to the rest of the marketplace, because they're not actually trying to protect the environment, okay, they're protecting or managing the working environment. So they are a facilities manager. So really important if we were to resource for that role that we can't run with habitat manager. It doesn't make sense. It'll attract all the wrong candidates. We need to move the dial and change that job title. We also want to make sure that you list or describe the salary. Now, if you can't tell them how much you're paying, describe what they get. So do they get a base, commission, car park, protective equipment, overtime, penalty rates, flexible online rostering system? You know, what is it that they actually get? We want to package that up in here because you have 50 characters to do that. Location, you have an area, a location and an area to choose. Be as granular as you can. And if the suburb is not listed, you should type the suburb somewhere in your ad. I don't care where, anywhere in the summary, anywhere in the body of the ad, because we've built technology that will enable us to be able to grab the suburb out of the body of your ad and actually put it in here for you. So even though you might choose, say, Sydney, Parramatta and Western suburbs, it might actually be in St. Mary's. And if that's the case, great, we'll find St. Mary's in the body of the ad and we'll take out Sydney, Parramatta and Western suburbs and we'll put in St. Mary's so that candidates, when they have keyword typed in St. Mary's, if they've done that, that's when that will appear. Okay, so we'll go to the effort to match up your criteria and your location specific to a candidate's keyword search. So wherever you can be really granular about suburb, I absolutely would. Key selling points. If you're not doing these well, these tips will be just enough to help you, right? What is a core position highlight? What will they come in and build, create, manage, own? Okay, what is a key thing that they'll be responsible for? What's something unique about the company? Are they local, national, global? Do they work in a particular field? Do they specialize in something? Key benefit, maybe it's career development and mentoring plans. Maybe they put you through a certificate. Maybe you get on-site parking. Whatever they might be, things that you think are most important to those candidates. In the short description, this is the part that people struggle with the most. So I'm going to give you an example of what not to do and what to do in a second. But ultimately, this short description, treat it like bullet points. Short, punchy statements. Okay, they don't need the dot, but ultimately they don't need to be rolling sentences because you only have 150 characters. So we really need to nail the message very succinctly and concisely. So this is one that was actually written by an IT company. Well, I think actually it was a corporation, but they were looking for a senior level IT role. And what they put in their ad was, or in their short description, that 150 characters. Do you want to join an amazing team with great culture? This is a great opportunity to join a fantastic company and work on some massive projects. Now, it sounds nice, but an experienced candidate will read it and say, blah. Okay, do you want to join a blah, blah, blah? And they'll move to the next summary because there's not enough really rich information there. So what we want to do is we want to pepper it with more rich detail. So tell them exactly what you're looking for. Lead a team of 10 developers. Build innovative software that integrates social media platforms. Manage budget pipelines valued at $3 million. Action-driven content. Lead, build, integrate, manage. You can see how simple it is to get some of these core action words through and even slice them out of the body of your ad. If you find it easier to write your full body of your ad first and then loop back and complete your short description second, do it that way. Because all you're really looking for is to give them meaning and depth around what it is that you actually want them to come in and do. Now, you may have roles where they're not quite as sexy. Okay, they may be blue collar roles and you don't really want to tell them how to suck eggs. You know, you're looking for a mechanic. Well, you don't really need to tell them that they will repair vehicles, but you might want to tell them what type of vehicle, okay, because that would be interesting to them. Okay, if I'm working out in a mining region, I would expect it's going to be heavy duty. Okay, but the reality is that it might be that I'll be working on light trucks and trailers. Okay, and if that's the case, then I sort of want to know about it. So that sort of stuff I want to be thinking about, and then maybe talking about the working environment. Okay, so what is it like? Is it air-conditioned workshop or is it out in the field? Because they're two contrastly different things. So start thinking about what the candidate would care about, but try and write it as succinctly as possible. To help you do it, I've got a list of action words. Action words are great. I love them. The key thing with action words is the majority of the time you do not need ings and shins. Okay, if you have a leading sentence, so in this role you'll be responsible for, but not limited to, managing and driving, operating and running. Okay, you have to use ings in that instance because you've put in a big fluffy, sentence structure at the beginning. If you don't put the sentence structure in, great, candidates will love you for it. Put in a heading like duties or responsibilities and then bullet point it. Manage and drive this, operate and run that. Okay, you can use more succinct action words, it's punchier. And the other thing you don't need is, shins, so modification and adaptation. Modify and adapt system processes. Much punchier, much more concise. So this is probably another one I'd print out and just help me frame up what are the key purposes of the role. So I have a white collar and a blue collar example for you. I'm not going to spend heaps of time on it. You guys will have this later, but this is a real summary. So I've hidden the company's name and I've put in what worked and what needs work. Okay, and I'm conscious that not all of you will use the bullet points and logos yet. So I'm going to show you how I would re-script this in both classic and standout formats. So you can see how you can move the dial depending on which structure you use. So ultimately, we can sort of see that that job title is screaming at us. It's horrible. We're saying that's 100K plus, but over here we're saying 90 to 120. So we're going to, screw you down on money later on. And the recruitment agency is just promoting themselves. We're the Australia's most loved digital recruitment agency. We have an exclusive role with a business that will literally change the way. There's no depth. Okay, you can hear it is very top level overarching messages. We want it to be more succinct. Okay, so this is how I do it. If I was to write it in the exact same format that they had, I would change the job title to be really specific. So it's a front-end developer using HTML5. And that's really key because candidates in this particular discipline always type in, well, don't always, but majority of the time will type in a technical skill to be able to find really relevant roles. And that technical skill is usually things like C++, Java, .NET, HTML5, JavaScript, all that sort of stuff. So what are they going to come in and do? They're going to launch an innovative mobile project. It's a rapid growth company with plans for global expansion, collaborate across teams within an agile methodology. You can just hear how much more succinct that is. Okay, there's more depth to it, there's more information, I'm more inclined to click. If you do it in standout format, you can just see it's bigger and you have more room to move, more opportunity to be a bit more flexible with your sentence structure. And you can talk about a little bit more depth. So you're going to lead the front-end development for that project launch in this one that I did last year, so 2014, so it's a bit dated. But it gives you an idea of how that would come together. Blue collar, so this is the diesel mechanic example that I sort of referenced a little bit earlier on. We're just saying we want a qualified person in this region. Okay, so what we want to do is we sort of want to talk more about the types of trucks or trailers or equipment that they'll be using, some salary information, what's the working environment actually like as well, and what sort of benefits would I get? So we want to tell them how they're going to get paid, what sort of allowances they've got. It's a fly-in, fly-out scenario. They'll maintain light vehicles, trucks and trailers within this construction, mining, telco specialist. It is a new workshop with 10 aircon bays, 3 weeks on, 1 week off. So you can start to see how that little bit of depth in there can make a difference. Stand out again, just more room to move. All right, so you get them to click on your summary. How do you get them to read your ad and do something effective with it? Okay, you want them to not only read it, but you want them to retain it so that they understand that it's right for them and that they actually want this job above all others. And then you also want them to apply. So we need to create an environment where there's really clear structure. All web users scan read. On the average web page, they absorb 20 to 30% of content. Why? Because it's unstructured. Okay, if you can create structure much like an informational website, okay, think of your Wikipedias of the world, okay, maybe the content isn't always credible, but ultimately what it does is it enables you to pass your eye through lots of detailed content for you to be able to find the information that's of most relevance to you. So as a candidate, I can pass my eye through going, company, role, duties, experience, culture, benefits, apply. Everything I need is here. Now, which part do I want to read first? And that's what we want to try and create, this really easy way for someone to pass their eye through your content and pluck out the bits of greatest interest and then loop back, reread, re-retain, right? It's that sort of stuff that we want to make sure that we're focusing on and helping them with. Now, this is a template guide. You can see I've got lots of tips in there around how many characters you should use, what you should write in each section. I don't care what you call the headings, but the key thing is they need to be bolded and they need to be headings, not sentence structure. Okay, ultimately, the candidate doesn't get any value out of reading. Say, instead of this duties bit, in this role, you'll be responsible for, but not limited to, the following tasks. And then you have your bullet points after. That's not helpful for a candidate. What it does, it tells me you have non-essential reading in your ad. So now I have to scan it. You don't want them to scan ever. So what we want to do is we want to strip it back and get rid of all the really fluffy sentence structure. To soften sentences, instead of just starting with an action word, you can always start with, you will do this, you will collaborate on that, you will work with this, you'll report to them. But you want to be able to get to your action word as quickly as possible in any of your sentence structures. So I'm going to show you what good and bad looks like, right? So company information, sometimes we're a bit vague. Great industry leader who really cares about their people. No depth, and a candidate doesn't understand it. What they want to know is, are they local, global, national? Are they renowned for a particular specialty? How many people do they employ? You know, that sort of stuff is really helpful. So it's a global steel manufacturing company specializing in marine plant and equipment, and you could even say with a small team of 50. Okay, that might be what you want to say, or a large staff of employing more than 1,000 people. Okay, that sort of thing you could always tack into the end of it as well. About the role sections, I hate these ones. This is an exciting opportunity for a management accountant to join our team. You'll perform but not be limited to the following tasks. I hear it and see it a lot. What I want to see here is you really positioning what this person will be doing 3 months from now. Okay, when you take the job brief, if you could imagine your perfect person in the role, what would they be doing 3 months in, 6 months in? What would their primary focus be? You'll collaborate closely with the CFO on a business critical project to reduce days outstanding. You'll create and lead a team of 3 experts to deliver the project on time and to budget. Okay, there's a lot of personalization in here. You. There's action-driven content, collaborate, create, reduce, deliver, right? Lead. There's all these action words that give you real substance around what my core purpose will be. And it talks to what it is that they're going to be coming in and owning. Okay, as a management accountant, I know what a management accountant does task-wise. Okay, I've been doing it for years. It's what I studied. I understand the concept of a management accountant. But what I want to know is, what is my purpose? How do I add value back to the company? And this is how you'd add value back. And that's what we've got to get out there. Duties, every day will be different. You'll contribute to the team adhering to all the cultural values. It doesn't, again, candidates sort of read it and just go, I don't understand it. I can't relate to it because I'm not actually in the business. So be really specific about the duties that you want them to perform. And the more specific you are, the better we are at being able to scan through their resumes in their Seek profile and be able to match your ad to the most appropriate candidates. So rather than saying run reports, you could say create monthly reports using SQL. So you can start to see how you just tap in a little bit more detail can help add a lot more depth. Skills and experience must have a can-do attitude and be able to comply with our occupational health and safety standards. Oh, it's another pet hate of mine because everyone says yes. Okay, everyone says yes to that. There's no one that would say, you know what, sort of have a can't-do attitude, but hey, I'm going to apply anyway. It's weird, right? It's just a weird little concept. So what we want is we want to be able to tell them exactly what we want from them. If we only need one thing, then only put one thing in. If you only need them to be CPA or CA qualified, only put that in. Because if you put in all these other things that are unqualifiable, it gives them lots of reasons to say, hey, I might not have that whole CA, CPA thing, but I definitely have a can-do attitude and I'm willing to learn it. Okay, or I can comply to any occupational health and safety standards. In fact, anything at all that you want me to comply with, I'm happy to do that. So you can start to see how it waters down the effectiveness of your skills and experience. So make sure you really focus on the core things that are critical to the role. If having a can-do attitude is critical to the role, I would ask why. Okay, what makes it critical? Is it because they're going to revolutionize the way that people actually see the banking system and think of tellers in the future because they'll be providing consultative advice out to people as they walk in off the street to be able to push them into the right direction with the most appropriate consultant within the banking system? Great, let's put that in their role purpose. Okay, if that's what they're doing, they're going to change the face, change the voice of that brand, then that's why you need a can-do attitude. Then let's talk about that. Okay, so always question it, why? Why do we need that? Is it critical to the role? If so, why? And let's articulate it. Culture, rather than just being really generic about culture, we believe people are our best asset. We sort of see that a lot. Tell them why other people like them choose to align their careers with your organization. Okay, and one that we used for a data scientist was data scientists choose to align their careers with Seek because we're innovative. We empower our scientists to try new models and develop new technologies to solve local and global problems. So that's the reason why. That's why you would leave another organization to come and work for us. And so we have astrophysicists, we have rocket scientists, we've also got mathematicians and a whole range of really super smart people because they want to solve complex problems, okay, that haven't been solved before. Benefits. Rather than being really vague about the benefits, be really specific. Candidates do want to know. If they're getting a staff discount, let's tell them how much it is. Maybe having an online rostering system is something that is really valued. So thinking about what benefits you want to promote is going to be key. How to apply, just keep it really simple. Okay, click to apply or call for a confidential discussion. That's ultimately what we're looking for in this step. If you give them too many pathways to apply, they won't know which one is the best one. And they'll either go to your website, they'll try and email you, they might even just come through Seek, they might try and do all three. They won't know which pathway will actually work. So just give them a click to apply or call for a confidential discussion. So to wrap up, I've got some examples for you as well. And this is the body of the ads that sat behind those short descriptions that we looked at earlier. And these are real, again, so I've hidden out the company details wherever they were listed. But ultimately, this one, even though there's bite-sized paragraphs, it really does lack structure. If we whack in some bolded headings, it'd make a considerable difference. The other thing is that they actually talk about the company in all of these 4 paragraphs. And it makes it really difficult for the candidate to decipher where is the company information when I'm looking for it. So we want to try and use bolded headings to force us to stay on point as well. So this is how I'd move it. Okay, top 3 selling points. What are the top 3 reasons why you should be interested in this ad? About the company, let's ravel it all up into one at the top. About the role, the duties, the technical skills required, the experience required, the culture, the benefits, how to apply. You can see that structure just evolves that ad really effectively. The bullet points are one line across, okay, really succinct. With the diesel mechanic one, they actually wrote quite a good ad. It's a short ad, so the requirement for structure isn't as bad, or isn't as high, but you can still see they've got quite good structure. They've got these headings. I'd actually just turn them into more effective headings, make your bullet points a little bit shorter and bold them so they pop out, so that when you see on a desktop computer it looks fine. On a mobile, it starts to unravel a little bit. So even if we just added in some extra structure, I put in extra ones around culture and benefits and how to apply, but you wouldn't need all of this in here if you didn't want to. In fact, I didn't include a role purpose for this role because there wasn't one. Okay, they weren't coming in to revolutionize the way that they repaired and maintained trucks. Okay, what they were coming in to do was really clear duties. So if you need to delete sections out, by all means do that. You might not want the cultural section because it just sounds a bit too soft. So think about which bits you keep and which parts you throw away, but make a conscious decision on which ones are which. All right, guys, so to wrap things up, in terms of getting the best out of your ads if you walk away today, if you're not doing it at the moment, I create structure. Okay, bolded headings for each segment of your content, and make sure that you only talk to one theme at a time. Don't roll into company, into must have, into would love to have, would be doing, role purpose, right? We want to make sure that your ad has really good, clear segments so the candidate can naturally work their way through each component. Be really specific in your content, okay? The more specific content you have and less waffle, okay, this is a great opportunity for a fantastic candidate. All that information could exist in any ad, okay? We would call that noise, and it would make it really hard for us to be able to determine who are the most relevant candidates if your ad has too much of that noisy content in it. Really specific information is going to be key. If you keep it really punchy and concise, people will read it. Okay, but the information you put in, it doesn't need to be a short ad. I'm really happy if you have a very long ad. So long as it's structured well, it's bite-sized, and every paragraph is meaningful. Okay, so it's concise. It doesn't waffle on. If you see any waffle, think, would they read it? Would they go blah, blah, blah? If you think they're going to say blah, 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 delete it out, start again. If you can include video, I absolutely would. I didn't really mention this a little bit earlier, but video is a great way to be able to articulate your culture and really bring it to life. So if you're interested in video, definitely talk to your account manager about it. It's free to include, but it's a growing area. It's only about 4% of ads have video in them at the moment, but those that do, they get a 20% uplift in applications. So really good results. And if you want to talk more about that offline, please let me know. And then ultimately use the scorecards. Okay, those scorecards, what I want you to do is when you score your ads, it helps you identify which bits are working and which bits are broken. Only fix the broken bits. Okay, no one wakes up in the morning with a fist in the air going, yay, can't wait to write an ad today. Okay, we don't do it. We don't do it because it's a bane of our existence, right? We've got to do it. We've got to get to the means to the end. So ultimately, what we want to do is create efficiencies. Use the scorecards to really nip in the butt the things that are broken or what you need to evolve to align with both the candidate experience and the really rich data algorithms that Seek uses to market your ads out to those relevant talent pools. Because if you can do all of that, you'll definitely be writing great ads that are going to work every time. Thank you so much for your time today, guys. I'm really happy to stay on the line if you have any further questions. Good luck with your talent acquisition strategies for the rest of the year. Thank you.